The topic of Pacific salmon has loomed large in the anthropological literature for decades, but in our conversations about these beings, archaeologists have contributed little apart from the confirmation that salmon bones exist in the archaeological record. But there are 7 different species of Pacific salmon, each with their own preferences, physical characteristics, and uses, making it imperative that we increase our knowledge of salmon at the species level. Now, over the last 40 years, our knowledge of other fisheries has increased. And this is largely because of what are now considered to be standard methodological techniques, such as using a finer mesh screen and increasing our sample sizes. Our knowledge of salmon fisheries, however, has remained largely limited because the traditional methods don't allow us to identify salmon to the species level. While ancient DNA analyses have advanced our understanding of salmon species, its prohibitive cost has kept many from using this technique. However, the recent application of zooms, which is a protein sequencing method, has provided an alternative means for identifying taxa to the species level at a substantially lower cost. So my research is going to expand our knowledge of human relationships with different salmon species by examining the histories of indigenous fisheries at Kus-kus-sum, or the Courtenay River Estuary. Located in the homelands of the Comox First Nation on Vancouver Island's east coast, Kus-kus-sum has been a productive locale for millennia. And this is evidenced by flourishing ancestral and descendant communities, oral histories, and remnants of the large-scale fish traps. Indigenous relationships with different salmon species are time and space specific. This means that by lumping salmonids together, the nuanced relationships are homogenized and the intricacies are obscured. To circumvent this problem that is plaguing my discipline for decades, I will be using both traditional methods as well as zooms in order to address 2 main questions. What species of salmon were harvested at Kus-kus-sum, and did the targeted species change over time? By addressing these questions about certain relationships with an archaeological lens, we are more fully able to understand the nuanced socio-ecological importance of salmon-human relationships. As both cultural and ecological keystone species, the 7 Pacific salmon species are integral to the lifeblood of both human and non-human beings in this region. This means that the projected collapse of Pacific salmon will not be isolated, but rather can trigger region-wide collapses of various important relationships. By understanding the history of Pacific salmon, people like land guardians and conservation officers and others are more able to ensure the survival of Pacific salmon, as well as all the cultural and ecological relationships that depend on them. Thank you.